Good afternoon, everybody. I am Colonel Retired Randy Pugh. I have the privilege of being the Vice Provost of Warfare Studies and the Naval Postgraduate School's AI Task Force lead. Thank you for joining us this afternoon, and thank you for my panelists for participating in this and providing their thoughts. Today, the theme of the panel is Beyond Human Speed, Applied AI for Combat Advantage. This title was chosen intentionally for what it is and what it is not. What it is this thought that in the 21st century, certainly mass and firepower and maneuver are still going to be critical elements for warfighters and for warfighting. But increasingly, what seems to be becoming increasingly apparent when you have competitors who have equal mass and equal firepower, if not greater, is this element of speed, and especially of speed of decision or decision advantage. That's what it is. What it is not is some kind of assertion that AI is going to replace humans, that AI will replace commanders, that AI is going to replace warfighters' judgment. But what I think the assertion is that it will accelerate and allow decisions to be scaled across the battlefield for high quality decisions. So the challenge, I think, before the Department of the Navy and the Marine Corps right now is not if AI works. I think we're watching the evolution of AI and the acceleration of AI capabilities in societies and economies. And so the question is, where does it matter operationally for the Navy? And then how do we move from promising prototypes to trusted deployed capability at scale? And then most importantly is how do we become effective human-machine teams? So if you're familiar with Kasparov's law, a moderately good computer and a moderately good human will beat the best computer or the best human every time. And how do we develop that in our warfighters and in our systems? So we're privileged to have today on our panel just the right, I think, diversity of perspectives, both in scale and in the hierarchy. One to my left is Mr. Stuart Wagner. Mr. Wagner is the Department of the Navy Chief Digital and AI Officer, and so responsible for enterprise policy, strategy, priorities, resourcing, the integration of the Department of Navy's activities and investments and operations inside the larger Department of War's strategy. To his left is Captain Chris Clark. Captain Clark works for the Deputy Commandant for Information at Headquarters Marine Corps, the Service Data Office, where he is the AI lead. And so Chris is looking at how do we integrate AI into the Marine Air Ground Task Force and into our warfighting functions. To his left is Mr. Ed Grohe. Mr. Grohe is the Technical Director at the Naval Information Warfighting Development Command. And so he's looking at how do we transition these promising capabilities or concepts out into the fleet. To his left, representing industry is Mr. Mauro Sancherico. Did I do it? Great, good on me. And he's going to talk about industry's perspective on applied AI and the development of solutions given real-world constraints, when the concepts and requirements are turned into actual capabilities by our industry partners. And then on the far left, my far left, your far right, is Major Chris Teska. And Chris is a PhD candidate at the Naval Postgraduate School in the Operations Research Department and is doing his dissertation on AI-related topics. And looking to Chris Teska to provide us, through his lens, the thoughts on advanced research, experimentation, and then also this idea of next-generation leaders, because while a leader in his own right now, he will certainly be one of the senior leaders and thought leaders driving us forward. So as we get ready to kick off the kind of rules of engagement, we'll have 5 minutes from each one of the panelists to outline kind of where they sit and their perspective on this challenge of integrating AI into warfighting. And then I've got some prepared remarks or questions that I'll address to the panelists and get their responses. And then the last 20 minutes or so, we'll have the microphones available for questions and answers, questions from you and answers from the panel. 3 big ideas. Stuart was asking me, just be like, what do you want to get out of this? For me, at least, I would like to know, because I'll be listening more than presenting, this idea that AI has to be considered in and is going to impact the full continuum of force development. And so as you've seen some of the other panels, you see this coming up, both AI for warfighting, but also warfighting development. How AI is reshaping ConOps and ConEMPs now and has the potential to radically affect the character of war going forward, and how will we accommodate that? And then lastly, because I'm at the Naval Postgraduate School, and some of the comments from the CNO yesterday during his keynote, this critical element in harnessing AI being not algorithms or GPUs, but actually humans, the talented sailors, Marines, and civilians that we have that will drive the development of AI, apply AI, extend AI, especially in harm's way. And with that, speaking of talent, I will now turn it over to my fellow panelists, starting with Mr. Stuart Wagner. Thank you.
Good afternoon, all. Thanks for having me. Thanks for the introduction, Randy. Okay, so I'm going to cover a little bit about what we do at the Department of Navy CDAO within the DON CIO, and I'm going to, I guess, talk about where I think things are changing or where things are going for the Department of the Navy and how we're learning from data and the implications of AI. So I'm the Chief Data and Artificial Intelligence Officer of the Department of Navy. That is primarily a policy-focused role. I'm also the chief evangelist, I would say, for the use of artificial intelligence and data within the Department of Navy, consisting of the Marine Corps and the Navy. There's so much great progress that the Marine Corps and Captain Major Select Clark, I should say, and the U.S. Navy has made in the past just few short years with AI and data. That I'd be happy to that I think you'll hear from the panelists on as well. But the big takeaway that I've had, I think the way in which AI is impacting us is really the speed of our ability to learn from data. A lot of people, I think, initially think about AI as a capability you drop into, you buy, a capability you purchase. But in my experience, it is an enabling capability that allows us to learn from data. If you look at how big tech companies have come to rapidly iterate, their delivery of a product or service in all cases is undergirded with automatically collected data. So if you look at how Google Search came about, it utilized PageRank, which was based on automatically collected data. If you look at your favorite social media site, it's increasingly automated. The news feeds are generated from automatically collected data about how people use it. When you go and watch Netflix or YouTube, the recommendation is generated from automatically collected data. And increasingly, we're seeing AI as connected to hardware is also undergirded with automatically collected data. If you drive a Tesla, the autopilot system was developed from automatically collected data, not just the sensors, but the driver input. It's not really a gas pedal, but the pedal as it's pressed, and the brake and the interventions that are made. And even in our satellite system with Starlink, when it was jammed with the electronic warfare, the software update that was pushed, how did they know what to push, what to fix? It was based on automatically collected data. And so I think that what AI is really changing is the speed and ability for us to react to automatically collected data and to update and calibrate our systems and produce emergent capabilities from those data. There are 5 ways we've identified that you can learn and adapt from automatically collected data for war. And I think that's most relevant within the Department of the Navy. The first is you update the system itself. So you take data that indicates the system could improve in some way, and you improve it. The second is going from, instead of changing the way the system fundamentally operates, you change the way you employ the system. That's tactics, techniques, and procedures. The third is you change the way you conduct strategy and operational planning. So you increasingly automate your indicators or warnings. You may use automatically collected data and automated systems to actually generate courses of action. And then the fourth way is you change the way you conduct training and exercises with automatically collected data. And then the fifth we're seeing is emergent capability development. I forgot to start my timer, so I don't know where I'm at on time, but I'll close. I'll close with I sensed right. I'll close with an example that has kept me up at night thinking a lot, which is the example of Claude Cowork. For those who haven't used Claude Cowork yet, it really is an incredible system for people who may be less technically inclined. And what's most fascinating about that system is actually, although it's incredible what you can do with it, what's most amazing about that system is how quickly it was developed. Telemetry within Claude Code, which is a system used by software engineers, indicated or suggested that increasingly non-technical people were using it to produce non-technical product out of it. And Claude noticed the signal that started approximately, Anthropic noticed the signal that started approximately along the Christmas holiday. And what they did is they decided to produce Cowork. And from idea to here's a product in production, it was 10 days. 10 days. The ability to generate the code for this product required extensive use of agentic capabilities within Claude Code. And this product has now been really, I think, significant in the advance of large language models and agentic capability. Who thinks this is going to slow down?
Put your
Okay.
hand down.
So I think it's going to get faster too, and I think it's going to change the character of war. It's definitely going to change administrative tasks, but I think it's going to be employed in the same way during war, and it's going to expedite the ability to deliver data-driven effects with warfighting capability. And that's the direction that the Department of Navy, CIO, and CDAO is excited to pursue, although the speed it's taking place, I think, is faster than many of us could have imagined.
Great.
Thanks, Randy.
Thanks very much.
Okay.
Captain Clark.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Captain Clark. Actually, major as of February 1st, but I haven't done the ceremony yet, so to get that out of the
Captain
way.
Clark.
Will be a major on the 20th once I get pinned on. But I've been at Headquarters Marine Corps, DCI, Deputy Commandant for Information, as the AI lead since 2023. Actually, an NPS graduate in the computer science AI track. And I did my thesis on adversarial example attacks. And then I came out here as my payback tour. So when I arrived in 2023, there was no AI lead for the Marine Corps. I showed up, and that's what we needed at the time. So I stepped into that role. There was really nothing there, no roadmap built. And the first thing that we did was developed an AI strategy. And well, before that, we created this AI working group that was comprised of representation from all of the Headquarters Marine Corps elements. So we have CD&I requirements, P&R acquisitions, Syscom, or I guess P&R finances, Marcor Syscom acquisitions, and INL for logistics. We brought all those key players together and developed an AI strategy with 5 goals. Mission alignment. We're not doing this just to do it. We're doing it because we have problems we need to solve, and we're solving those problems, and we're not trying to develop a solution and then find the problem, right? We're finding what the problem is and then applying a solution to it, and it may not be AI, and that's okay too, even though it's an AI strategy. The next is workforce training and education, bringing that literacy up, getting the workforce in place. We obviously get some of our workforce in the data and AI field from NPS, but those individuals like me largely go to Headquarters Marine Corps and those higher policy program offices and not to the warfighter. I'll get back to that in a minute. The next one is essentially infrastructure, deploying AI at scale, being able to do things rapidly, quickly, agile, be able to maneuver quickly as technology changes and improves, but then also having the infrastructure to support all of that. The fourth goal is governance. Not only do we need to govern these models to ensure that they are performing within expected parameters, because that can get very dangerous very quickly if they stray and we're not validating, verifying, and ensuring that they stay within those parameters because of model drift, data drift, and other things that are unique to machine learning models, not to software. Software doesn't change. You might find a bug that you didn't know about, but the software itself didn't change. Machine learning models, they do change because the data changes and it's being fed data to make those predictions. And then the last one is partner and collaboration with our joint forces, integration across the joint force, partnering with our academia and then industry partners as well. So, sorry, long-winded way to say we put that strategy out in 2024, developed an AI implementation plan to then implement it, because what good is a strategy if you don't implement it? And now we have, as of last year, April 2025, an AI implementation plan with 29 tasks across the service for accomplishing that strategy. And one of those is deploying digital transformation teams. We now have 5 actually digital transformation teams that are deployed. One at 2MEF, they were the first. LogCom was the second. MAR4PAC, McWill, and DCM and RA, and actually also MAR4 Cyber, so 6. And then we're looking now at the 2 MEFs that are remaining, 1 MEF and 3 MEF, because this really needs to be a warfighting capability. And that piece is largely focused on the workforce. We need to have the workforce, not just the officers that get a master's degree at MPS, though that's great. We need that too. But we also need to have the enlisted Marines and the rest of the workforce to be able to do the work that needs to get done. And that needs to be, most likely, it's going to be some area between the tinkerer over here that's tinkering and the program office, because we aren't going to compete with the program office that needs to focus on enterprise capabilities. We need to focus on the area that's potentially disposable code, disposable analytics, that's going to be adaptable on the battlefield, and have those Marines embedded within the mission space to be able to understand those mission problems, make code in an agile manner, use it, and then move on to the next objective. So that's what those teams are focused on. There's still a lot of work to be done there. There's still a lot of workforce parts that are missing. And we're just now setting them up. So they're very new, and we are planning to plug for my our generative and agentic workshop in March 9th through the 12th. We're going to have them out there to demo some of the work that they've been doing and just kind of talk about what the teams do and what their challenges are. Another thing that we're doing actually with NPS, we started with the Air Force over at MIT. They have an AI fellowship where we send Marines for 5 months. They work on a project that an 06 commander has signed off on and said, I care about this enough to give this Marine away for 5 months and also work on this project for the command. And they also get a lot of education, experience, and skills that are really valuable as they go back to the fleet. We started our first pilot with NPS that graduated just a few weeks ago, mid-January. Huge success. Some of the things they're doing are building AI agents to largely automate significant portions of the acquisitions process, to be able to compress months and sometimes years into days and weeks when it comes to documentation that is just very tedious and can be automated by those agents. We have a lot in the cybersecurity realm and many other places. But those are just a few of the things. There are many others. We're looking at a lot of the infrastructure challenges that we have, and then the workforce is a major one. Now that we have these teams, how do we build those talent pipelines? We have places like the Marine Corps Software Factory developing that talent, and now when they're done there, where do they go? They go out to the fleet, and we need to put them in a place where they can be utilized. So I think I'm at time, but yeah, thanks.
We'll have plenty of time later to dig into some of these ideas. Mr. Grohe, please.
All right, thanks, Randy, for having me on the panel. Edwin Grohe, I'm the technical director at NIWIDIC, the Naval Information Warfighting Development Center. And as a collateral duty, I run a couple task forces. One is the Information Warfare Enterprises AI Implementation Task Force under the direction of the IBOS, Vice Admiral Vernaza. At NIWIDIC, we have 5 missions, and they are all impacted by the development of AI, data science, machine learning, and I think this panel will talk a little bit about the differences as time goes on. But number one thing we do is we write tactics, techniques, and procedures for IW capabilities in the fleet. That is electronic warfare, cryptologic operations, intel, METOC, all things cyber, RF comms, basically the IW suite of capabilities. So we write the tactics for the new capabilities that are coming online, some of which have some version of AI incorporated into them. The second thing we do is we provide advanced training to our fleet as they prepare to deploy. So we're training to the tactics that we just wrote on that system. The third thing we do is innovation and assessments. So as we see capability gaps, we work with the R&D community and the warfare centers to innovate a solution, a capability solution to fill the gap. And then furthermore, we assess capabilities as they're operating in the environment to see if indeed they're doing what we think they need to do, and if the operator was trained, and if the data was correct, and if the system is working properly against the threat. We also produce warfare tactics instructors. We are like Nautic has Top Gun and weapons schools. We have a weapons school for information warriors. We produce 8 different types of warfare tactics instructors that go out and train the fleet. So keeping them up to speed on capabilities as they change and develop is really critical. And then the last thing I'll talk about that we do is we provide electronic warfare reprogramming services to about 30 fleet and joint systems. So that is providing data sets that our EW systems use to do their job out in the fleet. That area is my #1 application of AI, machine learning, data science. It is a very mature data set, and we are working hard to gain efficiencies with rules-based automation, artificial intelligence, and dare I say machine learning. But at its basic element, just doing data science to make sure our data is clean and ready for the application of advanced technologies. We in the information warfare enterprise have as our operational forces SynMOC, that's the entire METOC community, 10th Fleet, you may have heard of them, and the Office of Naval Intelligence and all their subordinate commands. So we have a lot of forces that could use AI in many applications. As a task force, I don't stand in the way of any of them procuring artificial intelligence. I also don't stand in the way of our systems command as they develop and purchase AI capabilities and incorporate it into our systems. What I do as a task force lead is really 4 things. One, we have monthly stakeholder meetings at various security levels where we talk about an AI, data science, machine learning problem, and sometimes we allow vendor demonstrations to a group of stakeholders that chooses to dial into that event and see some type of technology demonstrated that we think people might be interested in. We don't buy it at Niwitic, but we do kind of enable that if we see that there's something interesting that fills a gap. The second thing I do as a task force is to find fleet innovation. There are people doing data science and AI in the fleet now, either with skills that they developed on their own or with skills that were developed at our learning institutions. NPS in particular is one of those places. And we find great talent in the fleet doing things with new technology. We get that promoted. We try to make it incorporated into fleet-wide TTP and get it codified and produced in other places. So we've had quite a bit of success with that, and that's probably the biggest thing we need to do. And then, as I mentioned, applying AI and data science to electronic warfare. And then we have a few other projects that we're working on as a task force where we see gaps that no one else is working on. And I don't spend a lot of money because I don't have a lot of money, but we try our best. Finding people in the fleet with skills and putting them to a problem is really where I gain the most advantage. And with that, I'll turn it back over. Thank you very much for having me here today.
Mauro.
Thank you. Thanks all for having me this afternoon. Really excited to be here on this panel for this dialogue. I wanted to begin here by introducing myself and our organization. So I'm here on behalf of the Lockheed Martin AI Center, We formed the Lockheed Martin AI Center in 2020 specifically to get ahead of the wave of AI proliferation that we are living in right now. So to do that, we took AI talent from teams that were already in the beginnings of employing these technologies, and in many cases, going back to classical AI and some of the more classical statistics-based techniques, already had experience integrating those techniques into our platform. So we took talent from Skunkworks, we took talent from folks in Morristown, New Jersey, where we make the Aegis weapons system for folks doing radar discrimination, things like that. Talent from Advanced Technology Laboratories in Cherry Hill, and we put all those minds together into what was the beginnings of the LMAI Center. Since then, we've grown the organization to 300 strong, and we have a few different pillars of the organization that support our mission to proliferate AI across our platforms and programs. So first pillar is what we call our Foundations Group. So our Foundations Group is responsible for AI infrastructure and AI for internal business operations within Lockheed Martin. So they stand up our GPU clusters. They've proliferated GPU clusters across our unclassified systems and also across dozens of our air-gapped networks in different program spaces. And then they provision AI infrastructure, so think tools required to train, tools required to get model provenance, tools required for data indexing, data cleaning. They proliferate those tools across those infrastructure and those air-gapped deployments, so that way any engineer across our enterprise who needs to employ AI techniques on their programs already has the ability to do it and already has the tools they need, and that all comes pre-stocked in their infrastructure. They also deploy internal tools that we've built, so we've done a lot of weight cloning of some of the open source large models that are around there, and we rehost those models, so that way we're able to host them on our air-gapped system, so that way we're able to use a lot of the modern agentic tools, but we're able to do so within the constraints of a defense environment. So that all comes from our Foundations Group. Next up is our Certs and Standards Group. So they're responsible for taking all of the evolving standards that we're seeing coming out of the Department of Defense, Department of War, excuse me, and we are very excited to see those standards coming and to proliferate them across our enterprise. So think the Joint Weapons Safety Working Group memos on the development and deployment of AI. Think the OT&E and DT&E manuals that we've seen come out. Think some of the addendums that we see coming to 882E around AI employment. Our Certs and Standards team is responsible for staying in front of all those requirements and then flowing those requirements out proactively to our programs and products that are deploying artificial intelligence both internally and in our mission systems. Finally, I live in our Applied AI pillar, and within Applied AI specifically, myself and my colleagues are responsible for mission execution. So we are squarely at the intersection of AI and mission, and we are responsible for integrating AI capabilities into our mission systems and platforms. So think in the sensors, in the C2 systems, optimizing our effectors. That's where we live, and that's where our day jobs are. So myself, I oversee our technical portfolios within Applied AI mission execution. So technical portfolios include AI for electronic warfare, signal processing, and radar, AI for computer vision, autonomy, command and control, as well as reinforcement learning and agentic workflows, and then finally our weapons and effects portfolios focused on pre-mission optimization of weapons and effectors. So very excited to talk about a number of those capabilities from those different portfolios and how we're employing them here today, and some of the constraints we've had to work around to get out in front of employing those, especially integrating into, it's always easy to integrate into the newer platforms, but to integrate into the legacy platforms, get those capabilities proliferated. So just wanted to also begin by introducing a few of our philosophies, which you'll hear me reference throughout these talks, or throughout these answers, and how we apply AI. So just to share, and these are the same design philosophies that I share with my team. So first, very in theme with today's panel, we talk a lot about OODA loops at the tactical level, where we think of AI as bringing a significant impact. Of course, it's in the OODA loop at the tactical level, but also we call it the second order OODA loop, the OODA loop by which we update our systems. So you'll hear me say that term. I share it with my teams often, the second order OODA loop. So using AI to get updates out faster, get the data back, and both optimize existing systems, as Mr. Wagner mentioned, and also for systems that do have AI capabilities, be able to update those systems faster by tuning those capabilities from data. Second, outside of my day job at Lockheed Martin, I'm a professor at Rutgers University. teach a course called Applied AI on practical constraints of applying AI, and I share this with all my students. I call it the veterinary dentist law. I share it with my coworkers as well. And the way that goes is AI impact comes from the intersection of AI knowledge and application knowledge. Just like you wouldn't get to be a veterinary dentist if you only went to vet school or only went to dental school. You got to have both. So we think of that and how we staff our teams and how we organize our talent. And we make sure we always have intersection of domain knowledge and intersection of AI. And that talent's hard to find, but fostering that type of talent and getting that type of talent together is exactly how we're able to do what we do and make an impact to mission systems. And then finally, last key tenet of a lot of our technical strategy is to play both sides of the chess game. So very much aligned with the DOW's AI strategy, the Lockheed Martin AI Center, we're a centralized organization, so that means we're working across Lockheed Martin's entire business. So we're working across our aeronautics partners, integrating into their airborne electronic warfare systems. We're working across our surface partners, integrating into their radar systems. And what I like to say is our radar engineers are better radar engineers because they're not just making radar capabilities, they're also making electronic warfare capabilities, and they're able to see how those capabilities have to compete against each other, and they're able to play both sides of that chess game and get ahead of that counter, 2 steps ahead that we're always trying to be. So with that, I'll end my introduction, and again, really excited to be here and looking forward to this dialogue.
Thank you, Mauro. Chris?
Thank you, Randy, for having me here today. I have the advantage of not having a rice bowl, unlike the rest of the panelists. I'm a student at NPS, and I really like Mauro's comment about the veterinary dentist. So I am an infantry officer. I was an infantry officer for 10 years. I remain an infantry officer today. I guess 12 years. And I'm also a PhD student, spending the last 2.5 years studying operations research, statistics, and really what that's evolved into today is AI. 5 years ago, 6 years ago, 7 years ago, I see some of my professors, now the provosts in the audience. If we said AI in 2017 for some of the things that we call AI now, they would have said, no, that's not AI. That's machine learning or that's statistical learning. There are a lot of different things that bundle up to help automate decision making. And those are all different tools and different capabilities, and they do different things for us. When I think about myself and as the veterinary dentist of the guy who's both an infantry officer and educated AI PhD student researcher, I like that analogy. I'm constantly trying to think of how will an infantry officer, how will an infantry sergeant, how will an F-35 pilot, how will a corporal in an FDC, so fire direction center behind a gun line, how will they use these tools, right? We're making these tools for them. And if you look at an infantry officer, he will tell you, I'm going to give a task to a Carl Gustav, a recoilless rifle that we have. It's a shoulder-mounted weapon system. Has 13 different types of rounds. Each one of those rounds is a different thing. You have a dual-purpose round. You have an anti-armor round. You have anti-personnel rounds. Multiple different things that accomplish different. They achieve different effects, but they all come out of the same weapon system. And now we have computers, or we have battle management systems, or we have sensors, or whatever. All it is a tool to aid the decision-making of a commander, or the decision-making of a squad leader, or somebody's decision-making, a staff officer. Can we train those officers, and can we give them the information that they need of, I'm giving you a model, this is what it's doing. It is built on these assumptions. If those assumptions aren't met, know that you're not going to be able to get the right answer out of it. Because the environment will change. And as fast as this stuff is changing, it's constantly changing. Mr. Wagner spoke about how we're automatically updating based on automatically collected data. Is this not working? Okay. We're constantly updating based on automatically updated data, but there will be a decision maker making a decision. Is this one working?
Ooh,
there we go.
that's really working.
There will be a decision maker making a decision before the model is updated. They need to have awareness of what their environment is. They need to have awareness of what the question is that they're asking. And they need to have awareness of what their model is capable and not capable of doing. Because the models that exist today, the large language models, if you ask it a question, it will give you an answer. The answer may or may not be right, and it may or may not be taking into account the things that you think it's taking into account. And can the people sitting at the end, pressing the buttons, making the decisions, understand what they're getting out of the computer, what that's reading up to them? That's a lot of my focus right now of what model does what we think it is. How do we develop models to do what we actually want them to do instead of just to give us answers that look like what we want them to do? And then how do we educate the leaders and decision makers on how, when and where to use these things, what assumptions go in, and keeping track of that information. So thank you.
Great, thank you. So the theme of the panel is beyond human speed, and we talked the different aspects of capability development, and a little bit I liked Stuart, your comments about the adaptation of the machine, because I always think about top-down driven innovation, bottom-up kind of combat adaptation, which is kind of while in contact with the enemy, and the thought that the machine is also going to be doing that as well as the human. And so just if we could, just from each person very briefly, when we say beyond human speed, what are you thinking in your mind, and then what particular warfighting function do you think has the greatest potential for improving the speed advantage, whether that's logistics, and the timelines may be different, and the savings may be different, but whether it's fires or logistics or ISR or one of the other warfighting functions. So what does it mean by beyond human speed, and then what are the biggest opportunities for AI to help with that? Yeah, we'll just go down, please.
Okay. I've been thinking a lot recently to get to a specific coding example. There was a team that generated a C compiler in 20 days for about $20,000 with approximately 16 coding agents that ran for that period of 20 days. And that compiler is quite good. They were able to produce basically a team that worked around the clock without human intervention for that period of time, and it came out with excellent output. When you talk about superhuman speed, I would say the ability to give a machine a task that's could require hundreds of engineers, or 50 engineers, have it work for a significant period of time, return with hundreds of thousands of lines of code, and have that be immediately leverageable, if not yet fully tested, to Major Teska's point. That is superhuman. That is superhuman speed, in my opinion. How that impacts warfare is not yet knowable. We can guess, but it's not knowable. But for many human tasks that require manual effort, I think a lot of that could be expedited, if not eliminated. I think I'm gonna create a little bit of space or difference between Major Teska's view and my own. I think that humans increasingly will find themselves in a governance role rather than in a decision-making role. Humans may increasingly be on the loop rather than in the loop of a decision. A software update, even, if sufficiently small, may not require a human to say yes or no. It depends. It depends on the risks. It depends on everything else. But I just think this is going to be massively consequential, I think this is going to enable sort of the superhuman effects, or the exponential effects, where we're able to potentially achieve 100x improvement in productivity for single humans.
Great, thanks, Chris.
Yeah. So I guess I'll take a step back from the generative AI kind of thing and look at some of the AI that we've been doing, machine learning that we've been doing for decades, especially in industry, and maybe not necessarily in the military. But some of those are like computer vision. So my thesis work was in adversarial example attacks, which is a computer vision task where you have a machine learning model classify an image as a dog, cat, horse, car, whatever. And right now we have analysts who look at video footage 24/7, which is exhausting, mind-numbing. They miss a lot, but we need that. We need them to look at it because we need them to identify those like 5 or 6, minutes of something that happened, so that they can inform the commander to make a decision. Machine learning models can do that largely. We have to look at that kind of carefully, but for the most part, they can do that. And the analyst will then just need to look at those, however many minutes of clips that the machine learning model flagged and said this is potentially an adversarial movement or some other activity that you need to take a look at and make sure that that is correct. And then they can go and say, no, it wasn't, that's, something benign or whatever. And that frees up the analyst to do a lot of other things. So that's one thing. Another one in logistics is when it comes to like predictive maintenance and predictive logistics. Right now, a major issue is getting the right parts to the right place at the right time. So if you have an aircraft part that breaks down and you don't have the part nearby, it can take days or weeks to get that part where it needs to go. If you look at what Amazon and UPS and others, not to call anyone specifically out there, but with same-day delivery, they are predicting what part needs to be in what warehouse at what location based on the prediction of who is going to be ordering or requesting that thing. That is the kind of stuff that we need to do. And it's a very complex chain of things to make that work, extremely complex, because we have contested environments, we have weather patterns, we also have just the, vehicles themselves that are going to have different parts breaking at different times, so we need to be able to measure at like the food consumption level, the ammo consumption level, the vehicle breakdown level, all of the different things that can happen and all the different parts and pieces that are going to be needed to keep and sustain a unit, and then be able to drive that all the way back to headquarters of Marine Corps where they're driving the pre-positioning of that logistics to be in the right place at the right time. So I think that is at least a part of it, and we could probably go on and on and on, but I'll stop there and let the next one talk.
Great, thanks.
Okay.
Ed.
I think it applies everywhere. We're just making the human workflows faster, really, whether they're on the loop or in the loop, yet to be determined. But we mostly concentrate on maneuver, fires, defend, and resupply. But making human workflows faster is everywhere. I'll give an example. One of our subordinate commands used generative AI to produce curriculum for a course that they teach, and they reduced the timeline to produce that curriculum by like 93%. And it's actually pretty good curriculum. So it applies everywhere. I don't think I can name a specific area where it's going to be the most applicable.
So we view this on a spectrum, and I think the spectrum encompasses a lot of the viewpoints that we just heard. And think about, just like we categorize radio frequency systems on a spectrum of how fast the waves at which the frequencies at which those systems operate oscillate, we can characterize how AI will improve decision speed on a spectrum of how fast the loops of decision that we're accelerating operate now, and then of course how fast we can get them to operate when we accelerate them. So looking at the short end of that spectrum, right, we can think like millisecond level, right? That's things like adaptive waveforms, things like being able to recognize modulations, recognize interference and adapt to it in radio frequency systems. And then step up, think on few seconds level. Think about track classification, things we've done for a long time and have a long history of doing with statistics-based Bayesian techniques, and now are getting accelerated further with neural networks and a lot of technologies we're bringing to bear on those types of problems. So being able to accelerate how quickly we can categorize information coming in and help systems and operators act on it. Step back further and then think at the C2 level, so how we're categorizing scenes. And we're just starting to see technologies come into play that support those types of categorization. Think things like graph neural networks, new types of neural networks that are coming to the table to be able to not just process a single time series, but be able to process multiple time series and relationships between them. Those things are accelerating decision advantage at the minute-to-minute time scale. Stepping back even further, we think about how we accelerate the updates. I'm sure we'll hear a lot about that. We've already heard a lot about that. And then stepping back further still, how we accelerate mission planning and being able to adapt between missions. And that goes certainly for being able to extract insights from data in the field, but also how quickly we wargame and how quickly we run simulations. So we see a lot of success and a lot of promise in being able to take simulations that ordinarily would be generally slow and then speed those simulations up by replacing key elements of those simulations with different machine learning technologies and be able to accelerate that feedback loop in that manner. So I think we'll see it on a spectrum, and we like to categorize. It's almost our view of the world is two-dimensional in that regard. We like to categorize the different types of decision advantages that we're enabling and where they fall on that spectrum of speed in terms of OODA loop, and then also where they fall, was mentioned earlier, in terms of level of risk. So that way the how much we can tolerate accelerating each individual point in that top spectrum can also be commensurately categorized by what's the level of risk of accelerating it, and then what's the level of testing we need commensurate with that level of risk. And by breaking it out in that way, because historically it wasn't broken out that way. Historically, we kind of had these one-size-fits-all processes by which we close those loops. Being able to break it out that way has helped us accelerate by being able to have the right decision speed up commensurate with the use case and commensurate with where we fall on the spectrum of decision speed.
Thanks, Mara. Chris?
Yeah, so I would agree with most of these other panelists that you're going to find solutions and use cases in all different warfighting functions. I can't pinpoint one. I think on a weekly basis, a new model comes out that has a new capability. And some of them are language, obviously fits with C2. There are a number of tools that are very applicable to logistics and the predictive maintenance that exist that we need to get working, specifically in the Marine Corps, Department of the Navy, that we haven't quite gotten worked out yet. I think those are kind of the lowest hanging fruit, the intel. How do we summarize the large amounts of data that are collected, and how do we give that to somebody in a way that can help them make decisions? But I think also maneuver, fire, scheduling things, every single warfighting function has, will be different a year from now and 2 years from now.
Yeah. Thanks, Chris. So I have 11 more questions, but I'm not going to ask those. I'm going to ask one more that gives you time to think about your question and approach the mic. And I'll just ask the panelists to quickly answer mine, and then we'll have questions and answers from folks in the audience. And my question, again, where you sit is where you stand or something, coming from the Naval Postgraduate School. And so the question is, if you could change just one thing about how we educate and develop leaders to operate in an AI-enabled force, what would it be and why? And I think it's a more interesting question than I thought originally, because each one of you is thinking about leaders in a different perspective. Secretary of the Navy, all the way down to platoon commanders or something like that at the tactical edge of the battlefield. So with that, if we can stick with you, sorry to make you go first every time, Stuart. Go ahead.
It's all right. I think if it wasn't implied by my prior remarks, in the past 3 months, we've actually seen, there was a belief that there was a diminishing returns curve on the recent kind of AI excitement. And I think in the past 2 to 3 months, we've seen actually the change accelerating. And the only way to even observe it is to try, to understand it is to actually work with it. So the change I would make would be the ability to try these new things, which are often untrusted and not yet accredited capabilities, to be able to combine them with and commingle them with DoD data for particular use cases, because I think it's mind-blowing what I'm doing on my personal computer right now, and I can't do that or try that or even show that at the Department of War today. And I think senior leaders don't understand what's coming in the next 3, 6, 9 months.
Great. Thank you. Chris?
I'll be controversial and then walk it back, but I think largely we need to develop systems where Marines don't need to be trained on AI, just on how to use the system. Just like you don't know how the machine learning model on your phone knows that the image is an image of your mom. You just know that it does, and that's all that matters. A lot of these systems that we have and that we're going to deploy and use, Marines do not need to know the algorithms that underpin a deep neural network. I'll walk it back because we do, in fact, need to have a lot of educated workforce. And back to the veterinary example, having them embedded in the mission problem is critical so that they understand both the technology and they understand how it can meet the mission. And I think to Stuart's point, we're building software. Machine learning AI is software. We're not building a tank. We're not building a nuclear weapon. It's stuff that I do in my hotel room. When I leave here, I'm going to be coding with AI tonight. It's here now, and so there is some change that is definitely happening, and we do need to have highly trained experts who not only have an education and focus on doing research, but then have developed the actual skills of what it takes to put something into a production environment, even if it's a small production environment, to be able to deploy it, to use it, and then see what happens from there. And then I think the last thing is the leaders, really, because we need leaders to advocate for the technology that we need, for the systems that we need, really for the capabilities that we need. But we also need them to understand a lot of what's been said here, the risk of that information that they're going to receive, and is it correct? Can they trust it? Is it operating within parameters? And how do we verify and validate that?
Thanks.
All right, if I could change one thing, it would be to have Naval Postgraduate School make more graduates with degrees in data science and artificial intelligence, and send them all to my command immediately upon receiving that degree. We will even take Marines with PhDs to evaluate AI capabilities, gaps, and help us make decisions about what we're doing with artificial intelligence. And if you can make that happen this year, that'd be awesome, Randy. Thank you.
On it. Thanks.
So growing AI leaders is part of what we do in the LMAI Center. I appreciate that the veterinary dentist rule and the emphasis on intersection of knowledge and applied AI technology with the domain of application has resonated with my fellow panelists. Beyond that, what I'll call out is we seek to foster not only close ties between our leaders and their counterparts in the DOW program offices, because I think that happens naturally, but one of the things that we found as a key enabler that we need to do more of is to foster connections between our leaders and the tactics and training community to make sure both in the development processes that we're getting the human-machine interfaces right, because I think that's overlooked and we're seeing a whole lot more AI capabilities hit the field, so it's natural that we're going to need some evolution in the interfaces by which those capabilities are, one, used and two, updated, and then also, of course, in the employment of those capabilities. So I'll note for every AI success we've seen in the field, it's been through tight integration between our leaders and the tactics and training community, and we certainly would like to do more of that and continue to foster that.
Thanks.
So I guess Stuart and I disagreed at the beginning, and I guess we'll disagree again. I do think that the average Marine and average sailor will need to know little to nothing about how AI works, and they just need to be able to use the tools and act fast, use the capability to act faster. I think we need frogmen, though. I think if we envision ourselves in the 1930s, if we envision ourselves in a pre-large-scale war scenario, right? That's where we're going. The ability of the Marine Corps to integrate amphibious warfare through education, the ability of the Navy to put out frogmen and to lead the way with Raider battalions, frogmen, clearing the beaches throughout the Pacific before the big Marine Corps and the big Navy came in and actually won the war. Those small specialized forces, that ability to say, the veterinary dentists of, I am a warfighter, I have this other capability to swim really well. And that's going to be the one that gets us that beachhead, that gets us this capability that is unique to the military, that's unique to warfighting, that nobody else in the world is going to buy this thing unless you have somebody who knows what the warfighter needs and can help make it or buy it or whatever it looks like. Be that frogman to build the beachhead to allow the rest of the forces to not have to understand what's going on. I think we need those frogmen.
Thank you. Anybody dying to ask a question? We're getting close to time, and that's a good thing because there was a lot of good comments, as well as Chris disagreeing with everybody on the panel, which is useful. With that, in the interest of trying to complete this on time so that we can all go to the Naval Postgraduate School Foundation, Naval War College Foundation social upstairs, where they have free beer, you're all invited, and continue these conversations, I would ask you have a chance to make a few last comments, summarizing your thoughts about how do we use AI to increase the pace of decision making and increase the pace of combat to our advantage and to our adversaries' disadvantage. It's always you first.
I had one comment. I think Chris's remark was spot on with regards to comparing the need for the comparison between logistics and like basically predictive logistics in the civilian world and logistics in the military world. I do think that's ultimately a learning from data problem, at least in the commercial world. What's interesting in the military context is that we'll have like a more sparse data set, I think, like a significantly more sparse data set, especially under degraded conditions. And so that's going to be an interesting kind of unique challenge in the military. How do we like either generate synthetic data or predict kind of those challenges and getting the right capability to the right place at the right time, predicting kind of challenges along the route and failure and these sorts of things. I think that's going to be an interesting challenge. I just found that interesting.
I think something I was just thinking about is what's really interesting right now is that we're seeing a lot of senior leader, executive, general officer buy-in right now, and I think to some degree, they may not have a full understanding of what it is that we're talking about, but they're involved, they're engaged, and they understand that things are changing rapidly, and we need to be ready to change with it, or we're going to be left behind. And seeing that is valuable. I was on we did an executive training for it was like prompt engineering training, and I heard a 3-star general talk about deep neural networks and things that I just did not expect to hear in that conversation, because they are really engaging with what is happening right now. That's what we need. We need it not only because it's going to drive the mission, but we also need it because we are going to need funds to have infrastructure, to have the compute that we need to be able to do these things, and we're going to need a workforce as well. That's not going to be free, because if we give all these Marines these specialized skills and they realize I can make $250,000 a year outside of the Marine Corps and get treated better and not stay on duty, there's more to it than money, right? There's also like giving them the ability to do what they want to do that matters, giving them platforms to actually use their skills on. There's a lot of things, but we're going to need that senior leadership. And so I guess my takeaway is I'm really encouraged by what I see right now. We need to keep, I think, advocating and bringing this to the senior leaders so that they can advocate for us.
Thanks. Ed?
I think I'll build on your idea a little bit. So I think that giving people an idea of what the realm of the possible is important to the joint force. So with that, I'll take this opportunity to make a plug for myself. As mentioned, we host with our task force a monthly stakeholder meeting of people throughout the information warfare enterprise that can dial in and listen to a discussion about a problem or about a capability that exists in industry. And that's a good place to educate people about what is the realm of the possible. So if you are a vendor that has a capability that is interested in demonstrating at any classification level, please contact me immediately after this and we'll see if we can give you that opportunity. Once again, I don't buy any of these things, but there might be somebody in that meeting that would be interested. And I would just like the opportunity to see if anybody's interested in participating in our stakeholder vendor demonstrations. Thank you.
Thanks. Marlon?
I appreciate Captain Clark's comments on the fact that words that we never thought would have entered the senior leadership dialogue have now entered the senior leadership dialogue. When I read the Vaswani paper on Transformers in 2017, I never thought I would hear the word Transformers on the news later. When I read the distillation paper years ago that came out from Google, Jeffrey Hinton, I never thought I would be hearing about distillation on the news with how they made DeepSeek so computationally efficient. I think with that, the biggest thing I would close with to remember is that those successes that have entered the upper dialogue, those successes are just the tip of the iceberg. And remember, for every one of those, there's 10 more that are making an impact now that we are perhaps not exploiting as much as we could be. So I would just close with a call to action to look at where we're having AI success right now, because we certainly are having quite a bit of AI success, especially for mission systems, and look at how we can proliferate those capabilities to additional sensors, additional platforms to keep that success rolling.
Thanks. Chris?
Yeah, I think we're in a land of incredible opportunity, and I think every day there will be a new idea and a new capability, and the ability of the naval services to adapt those capabilities, turn them into adapt those technological capabilities and turn them into warfighting capabilities. We need to do that. That's what it's going to take to win, and it's going to be happening in the lead up to any conflict. It's going to be happening during the conflict, and that needs to be a part of our battle rhythm is adapting what capabilities we're using and how we're using them intelligently and educatedly.
Great, thank you. On behalf of our panelists, thank you very much. Round of applause for the panelists. And then, just in closing, I would highlight the Naval Postgraduate School is your partner in all this. We're partners with DON CIO and CDAO. We're partners with the Marine Corps and the Navy in educating future generations of officers. We're also partners with industry through CRADAs and through our Naval AI Summits that we host and other things like that to help to bring everybody into a common conversation so that we can federate the effort. If you go to www.nps.edu/AI, you can get to the NPS AI Task Force. Education, courses, short courses, certificates, master's degrees, PhDs. We're starting a Master's of Science degree in AI this summer in a pilot program. And then that's also for industry partners. So NPS is authorized by Title X to have industry partners from the Defense Industrial Base come and be students at Naval Postgraduate School side by side with U.S. officers and our international officers and our government civilians. Infrastructure, we're getting a DGX GB300 AI supercomputer, a gift from Jensen Huang and NVIDIA and the Naval Postgraduate School Foundation and others. We have the Omniverse platform, and we're looking for people to bring us problems, but also be our partners in figuring out how to make the maximum use of that. And then lastly, through Stewart's office, started a series of hackathons for students, as well as capstone projects and directed study, quarter-long sprints. So really looking for your interest in NPS to join with us and in getting after making these talented warfighters, and then also getting after the warfighting challenges that we have now and certainly coming in the future. So thank you for joining us today, and we'll see you upstairs at the social. Thanks.